Welcome back to News in Focus. Now, the big debate that has been happening since President Ramaphosa's announcement is the 75 ministers and deputy ministers. Is it a bloated cabinet? The reason why this question is being asked is that President Ramaphosa said that he would try, if re-elected as the head of state, which he did, of course, is to try and trim this cabinet, to try and not make it as big as he would have wanted. But, of course, the Government of National Unity is in the mix, and there's also the African National Congress that he needs to go ahead and try and satisfy. Joining me now to discuss this and what the public can expect with this new cabinet, I'd like to welcome political analyst and a very familiar face here on Hilaal TV, Dr. Levu Ndou. Dr. Ndou, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on News in Focus.
Faraz, good evening to you. Good evening to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Always a pleasure having you on, Dr. Ndou. Dr. Ndou, well, bloated cabinet or not? Just your take on it, because, I mean, both you and I heard President Ramaphosa during the 6th administration saying, if I were to come in again, I would not make it that big. I guess things have changed, hasn't it?
There has been a talk in the past from the different political parties in South Africa who were complaining that cabinet is bloated. And those are the issues that were being expressed even at the time when former President Jacob Zuma was in charge. And when President Ramaphosa came in, the same sentiments were raised, and he promised people that he is going to do his best to trim a cabinet. The unfortunate part of the situation now is that there has not been an outright winner in the elections, and the president is given the responsibilities to appoint cabinet. He has to do so at a time when there are many parties that are the participants in the Government of National Unity who must also get positions either in cabinet or in other spheres of government. And that, in my view, has put the president in a situation where he has to extend his cabinet because he has to ensure that everyone is accommodated in his cabinet, and parties that are in the GNU should also be seen to be taken care of and feel valued by being given responsibilities in cabinet.
Dr. Ndou, from the 75 that have been appointed, which is the one specific portfolio that's probably going to be scrutinized very, very closely?
I think all the portfolios are going to be scrutinized. But when I look at land reforms, which is being given to the PAC, I think it's a very interesting portfolio in my view, in the sense that from its establishment, the PAC has been championing issues that relates to land, issues that relates to ensuring that people or the formerly dispossessed get their land back. And their slogan sums it all. They keep saying Israel, to referring to our land. And it will be quite interesting to check whether PAC has just been sloganeering or whether indeed they meant what they were sloganeering about. And we want to see how they put that into action now that they've been given the position of authority.
Dr. Ndou, citizens, of course, viewers at home that are watching would be, asking the question, what are we going to expect from this new cabinet? There's different faces that have come in. I mean, you've got John Steenhuisen, the leader of the DA, taking, heading up the Department of Agriculture. You've got Correctional Services headed by Dr. Peter Groenewald from the Freedom Front Plus. And these are parties that are completely different in terms of their manifestos to that of the African National Congress. So citizens at home I mean, what would they be thinking right now in terms of where is this GNU headed with this cabinet being appointed?
What becomes very important in my view is that political parties should just remember that campaigns, electioneering, and all these things are in the past. They need, therefore, to be able to find ways and means to work together, develop joint programs that must work in the best interest of the citizens. I expect our politicians to rise above party political differences and learn to work together, to cooperate, and ensure that in whatever they do, citizens should become the beneficiaries. Yes, indeed, these politicians are coming from different backgrounds and different ideologies, and indeed, they've not been agreeing on many instances. But now that they've got this golden opportunity presented to them to work together, they should actually do their best in the interest of all of us.
Dr. Ndou, President Ramaphosa, has he played the right card in the delaying the inevitable of this cabinet? Because, I mean, 48 hours ago, we were talking about potentially the Democratic Alliance walking away from the GNU. As the head of state, has he done what he needed to do to satisfy both GNU partners, but also the African National Congress, where the NEC can be very volatile at times in terms of which way they're swaying in terms of its leadership?
Indeed. I personally never expected the Democratic Alliance walking away. All political parties contest elections in order to access state power. That opportunity has presented itself for the Democratic Alliance. What, in my view, the Democratic Alliance has been doing was to bargain and try to push their luck. And if it works, they were going to take it. But if they do not get exactly what they want, but they get some, they would still take it. And that is exactly what happened. You will recall that they wanted many ministries, which they did not get. And even though they were given the positions that they got now, they still look very excited. And I think it is because of what they actually expected to get. My view as well is that President Ramaphosa has tried his best to bring all these parties together, the Democratic Alliance and many other parties that are part of the GNU, in order to ensure that government should not easily collapse. And I think that's the motive that President Ramaphosa and his party came up with this program. And I know that when you have people from different parties and you give them these huge responsibilities, they will always want to try their best in ensuring that governance continues properly, and also at the same time, they are the beneficiaries of the system and they would not love to see it collapsing.
Dr. Ndou, always a pleasure having you on here on Hilaal TV. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're always welcome. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure, Dr. Levu Ndou, political analyst. Yes, the time for talk, as Busi Mavuso mentioned, is over. And it's important that with this new cabinet, there's a trust, a sense of trust that needs to be built within the public of South Africa. For many years now, the public has gone through a lot. Unemployment is high. We've had the energy crisis that has happened here in South Africa. Yes, what, 3 months now, there's no load shedding. But then we're having water issues. The city of Johannesburg's had that. The city of Ekurhuleni is about to have it. There are still problems. You go to Khayelitsha, and there are issues that are happening there. And this is where the DA, the ANC, And all these GNU partners need to come together and ask themselves, how are we going to change the lives of South Africans? That's what needs to happen. And we hope that the 7th administration, led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, will be able to do it. The time for politicking is over. Yes, there's going to be opposition that's going to be there in the National Assembly. And that's the beauty of democracy. But these 75 ministers and their deputies and President Cyril Ramaphosa and Deputy President Paul Mashatile need to get the groundwork going. South Africa cannot afford more wasted years. South Africa needs improvement now. And not saying take the stick and just wave it. We need the magic to happen. No, the magic's not going to happen. But what South Africans want to see is improvement. And as South Africans, we need to give a sense of benefit of the doubt. We need to give chances to each and every one of these ministers, despite the ideological differences from a political perspective. Let them do their job, and let us maybe come back at the start of 2025 to see where we are heading at as a nation. We're in a different frontier now as South Africans. We are now in a different space. It's an exciting one, but also one where there will be a little bit of jitters and fears. But South Africans are a bunch of people that are hopeful. We saw that in the cricket this weekend, of course. Proteas let us down, but we're going to give them a confidence that they've taken that step. They've taken the next step. They've reached the final of a World Cup. Now these politicians need to reach their final, and that is delivering to the citizens. They pay your tax. They do all they can. You, the politician, need to make it happen for the South African citizen. And if you're not going to do that, then come 2029, or even before 2026 in local government elections, you will be left asking the question, what did I do wrong? But that's all we have for you here on News in Focus. From myself, Ras Patel, the rest of the team in Johannesburg, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.